Lotus was once Great Britain's answer to Ferrari, both on the Formula One circuit and in the showroom. But after decades in the automotive wilderness, Lotus is now in the midst of a complete reinvention. No longer will it build its traditional lightweight sports cars, and instead it will focus on electric SUVs and sedans. Except for this. This is the Lotus Emira, and it's the brand's last ever petrol-powered sports car. It not only needs to live up to the legacy of the iconic models that have come before it, but it also needs to lay the foundation for the brand's future. No pressure then. So let's start with what it is exactly and where it sits in the current sports car market. While the Emira has been designed as a more premium and luxurious sports cars compared to the brand's stripped down and basic models of the recent past like the Elise and the Exige, it's still a compact model. It lines up against the likes of the Porsche 718 Cayman in terms of size and price. We're driving the Emira powered by a Mercedes-AMG 4-cylinder petrol engine, which begins at $155,900 for the entry-level model, but stretches up to just over $206,000 for this first edition we've got here. That puts the Emira into direct conflict with the likes of the Porsche as well as the BMW M4, but also creates some space for itself away from the more expensive would-be rivals from the likes of Ferrari, Maserati and McLaren. Now, if you want more details on the specification and pricing, make sure you read my in-depth written review at carsguide.com.au. Like I said at the beginning, the Emira is meant to be a bridge between Lotus's past and its future, and that extends to its design. The key thing is, it's still a compact sports car. It's only, marginally bigger than the Exige and the Evora that it replaces. And it puts it basically in the same size realm as Porsche's 718 Cayman. In terms of its actual looks though, there certainly are elements of previous Lotuses, but clearly the biggest design influence is Lotus's very limited run Evea hypercar. There was an all-electric hypercar that was meant to, reset the brand. And you can see elements of the design around the front end, the headlights, and in turn, those design elements from these sports cars will transition to that new generation of SUVs, sports sedans, and beyond. Jumping inside, the Emira is a clear step up from previous Lotus sports cars. For starters, there's no more exposed aluminium. Lotus has joined the rest of the car world and discovered carpeted floors. There's just nice materials used throughout. That's not totally new for Lotus. The Esprit was a premium luxury sports car in the past. But in terms of pure practicality, for a compact sports car, prefacing everything in that sense, there's decent levels of practicality. Because it's a compact car, it's quite a narrow cabin. You've got 2 cup holders, you've got a small lidded console box here, you've got a little shelf here, you've got somewhere to put your mobile phone here, but it's a very narrow center console, so everything's quite tight. Even the cup holders are quite small. I've struggled to fit, multiple different sized bottles and cups in there. It's okay for what it is, but again, this is a sports car. If you want practicality, you're out of luck. This is more about performance than taking along all your goodies. On the plus side, there is a decent sized parcel shelf, so to speak, behind the back seats here that runs the width of the cabin. It's not particularly deep, but you can chuck soft items there, so there is a little bit of extra space. And in terms of actual luggage space, well, there is a smallish boot out the rear. Again, it runs roughly the width of the car. It's fairly deep, but it's not, it's soft bags only. You can probably get a weekly shop in there, maybe, a few soft overnight bags. Again, this is a car designed for performance, not practicality. Originally, the Emira arrived in Australia with the same 3.5-litre V6 engine that Lotus has used to great effect in recent years. However, this new AMG-powered 4-cylinder turbo-petrol has arrived to provide a fresh choice. The 2-litre unit is tuned to make 268 kilowatts and 430 newton meters. Hopefully that means the 310 kilowatt, 500 newton meter version from the A45 is something Lotus can deploy in future years to keep the Emira appealing. The engine is paired to an 8-speed dual-clutch transmission, which you can either leave in automatic mode or change gears manually using the F1 style paddles on the steering wheel. As for its efficiency, being a sports car means the 4-cylinder turbo is tuned for performance over economy, and that's reflected in its 10.1 litre per 100k return. It's not bad for a sports car, but it is relatively thirsty given the engine size. But really at the heart of the Emira is how it drives, right? I mean, that's what Lotuses are all about. It's handling and performance. They've never really been particularly powerful cars, but from a handling and a dynamic point of view, that's what's made cars like the Elise and the Esprit before it, even the Elan going back to the old days. The bad news? Well, frankly, around town, it doesn't feel great. It's got, I've been driving for a week. I still haven't figured out quite how the gear selector works, backwards and forwards. It seems to really, it just seems clunky and awkward for what should be a very straightforward process. The engine tune and the way the gearbox is tuned is not great for driving around town. It has a tendency to hang on to second gear for much too long to make you look like you're a boy racer or something, like you're really revving it out of the roundabout when really all you're really hoping it does is slot into third gear and quiet down. It just feels restrained. Find yourself on some open road though in the Emira and it comes alive. The engine, particularly in manual mode, you can really play with the engine. It's got really good pulling power. Really shoves you out of the corners when you want it to. But the key, really, the highlight of this Lotus, and frankly of any Lotus, is the handling. That's what Lotuses are all about. Handling, handling, handling. The old joke for Lotuses was that company founder Colin Chapman used to say, simplify and add lightness. That was his ethos. But really it was all about making the cars handle better. He wanted them to handle great. And this Emira, he'd be proud of it. It has fantastic agility. It's incredibly direct. You just point it at the corner. The steering is incredibly precise. The suspension sits nice and flat. You can really enjoy yourself. You don't have to be going a million miles an hour, but it's on a twisty piece of road. This thing feels amazing. It really does remind you of all the reasons why Lotus used to be England's Ferrari. As for its safety credentials, well, sports cars are not typically beacons of safety. Not that they're dangerous, but the priority is speed, not complex and often weighty safety technology. It's part of the reason why these types of cars are rarely crash tested by the authorities. This is a more modern and luxury-focused Lotus, so it comes with a raft of safety items, including adaptive cruise control, anti-collision, fatigue warning, a vehicle speed limiter, lane departure warning, and other safety items. As for its ownership credentials, well, Lotus offers a 3-year warranty in Australia on the Emira, but it doesn't offer any sort of fixed price servicing, so if you want to know how much you'll be paying to maintain your Lotus, you'll want to talk to your local dealer before you buy. If this is to be Lotus's last petrol-powered sports car, then it's a sad day for the brand and its history and fans of these, iconic models the company has produced. But it's also worthy of celebration because this is an impressive sports car. Is it perfect? No, not by any stretch. But it is, a Lotus. It's got those core elements that made cars like the Elise and the Esprit and the others that came before it, so beloved by driving enthusiasts. Is it better than a Porsche Cayman? Well, that's a question for another day. But it is certainly worthy of consideration. And the bottom line is, if you want a Lotus sports car with a petrol engine, this is your last chance. Now, if you want to know more about the Lotus Emira or any new model for that matter, make sure you stay tuned to carsguide.com.au for all the latest news, reviews and videos.